Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. We have a full barn tonight talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates series. I am Ron Luce, joined by the Juice Man himself, Joey Ricotta, and the one and only Joe Maris. Gentlemen, we got a full barn. We haven't had a full barn in a while. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Ron. I'll be the first one, I guess, to speak because we always forget.
I was going to say, not all at once, guys. Not all at once.
Yeah, don't get so excited. You were real excited, and we just weren't, I guess.
I'm always excited. I'm excited because I get to talk to you guys.
Ron, I just woke up, so I have an excuse. I'm doing good. I'm glad to see Joe's face. It's good to see him. And then you guys, it's always great to see you. So, yeah, man, let's do this thing.
Let's do this thing. Juice, the Juice Man himself, how are you feeling, my friend?
Good.
Just good. Delicious. Keep it nice and short.
I mean, we're going to talk about a loss. That's not good.
That's true. We're also going to talk about a win, too. We're going to talk about a win, too. But agreed, when it's not a win on the day of the episode, the vibe is a little different. And Joe, we missed you, buddy. You're busy. You're a busy man. You're a big, college baseball coach now, which was worth mentioning. But since we get you tonight, how are you doing, my friend? How's everything?
Doing good. It's the rain came. Good thing the Cubs weren't playing in Illinois. So I got to relax a little bit, and I figured I'd talk some Cubs. It's been a while. It's been probably way too long.
I love that. And yeah, like I said, full barn. We're excited for a full barn. And speaking of full barn, this series was not a full barn in the sense of like things to talk about. It's very boring baseball, actually, if you think about it, gentlemen. So for those that didn't catch the games over the last 2 days for some reason, Pittsburgh Pirates lose to the Cubs yesterday when we're doing this episode, which was Tuesday. That score 2-1. It was kind of like Pittsburgh Day too, because it was 4/12 on the calendar. 4/12 is the area code of Pittsburgh. And they started the game at 4/12 local time. So like it was this whole big thing, which actually worked out perfect because it was 3-1-2 Chicago time, which felt very appropriate. But the Cubbies get a big win, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And then, yes, as Juice mentioned, we are talking a loss too that I think we can all sit here and agree shouldn't have happened. It's the Pirates, but they lose today. The Cubs 6-2, so they split the series. Just a 2-game set here with Pittsburgh before they go to the Mile High City out west. Pardon me, and we'll get to that later in the episode. But gentlemen, I mean, let's talk about just kind of the series as a whole. Obviously, a split. Just initial reactions so far, and Joey, we'll get your thoughts first here.
Well, my thoughts are for what Scott said. First of all, congrats to Joey for not sleeping through the show. Thank you, buddy. I feel like that is an absolute accomplishment. And yeah, after a loss, you kind of do just want to go to bed for the rest of the day. So, but with that said, thoughts on the series? I mean, game one's great. Obviously, we had Seiya just take off with I don't know how many RBIs it turned out to be with the in 2 games or these last 3 games. Really, he has what is 9 now? 9 total
for the season. I think he has 9 total. Yeah,
but
just
man,
3 in the last 2 games. Yeah,
3 in the last 2 games. Yeah, and then but just took off, man. That was my fly the W pick, so I'll take a little mini victory lap for that because I was originally going to take Horner, and then Juice got Horner, and then. I was like, yeah, let's go. We'll go plan B here. And I like Seiya, and he had a great series. Willie looked great today. He did leave on some base runners. I believe he left on 3 or 4 today on base altogether.
4 today for Wilson.
4 total today, which, I mean, he had a double and he had a bomb. So it's like it's hard to really blame the guy. I just hope that this isn't like him stressing or pressing too hard when guys get in scoring position and like he's in a situation like that with 1 out and bases loaded and like feeling like, all right, it's down to me. It turned out that was a real turning point though. If he gets a base hit there, I feel real good about us coming back in the game today. But it's really hard. That thing was an absolute missile with the wind blowing in, I believe. 453 feet, the wind blowing in Pittsburgh. Like that thing's a tank. Where's that thing landing if there's no wind? Like
where's it landing if it's at Wrigley? It's probably on Waveland. So
dude, that thing is absolutely nuked. And like starting pitching, I mean Hendricks, that was kind of the real clunker. But I love what I saw from Smiley. So Hendricks, man, he threw a lot less changeups than he did in his first start. I think he threw like 22% today, and he threw like closer to 40% in the first outing against Milwaukee. And I don't know if that was just because they kind of seemed like they were on the changeup here early on, but that was something that I took note of. So it was pretty much my main takeaways.
Fair enough. Very in-depth initial thoughts, and we'll probably revisit those here in a couple of minutes. But Mr. Joe, what were your thoughts so far on this snoozer of a 2-game split?
Yeah, I mean, the snoozer is the right way to put it. Cubs offense couldn't put anything together against Jose Quintana, which is not something you love to see. Cubs fans have a lot of experience watching Jose Quintana give up absolute dick bombs. But, they won. That's fine. Today is just be 11:30 local time start here. quite strange.
Early baseball.
Right, early baseball. I mean, it's, think about an hour earlier than a normal 1:20 start. It's just a weird day, man. It was a boring game. Hendricks didn't have it, even with that Willie bomb that was just amazing. It was just as majestic as they come. You thought, okay, here it goes. It starts now, and then it just did not go from there. Yeah. And I think there's some problems, within the lineup, like Wisdom.
Like, we'll definitely touch on that because I have thoughts on that as well.
So, there's just some things that's, you'd like to beat the Pirates in a 2-game series, but I mean, they split it. It's not like we're in 2016 mode where it's, if they don't win a series, we're all up in arms, but it is what it is, man. I'm looking forward to watching Chris Bryant play.
That is very true. And obviously we are going to give KB some love at the end of the show. Juice, initial thoughts, man. I mean, I think we all are very in consensus about the pace of these last 2 games. But, what was just some of those initial thoughts that you had so far after a split with the Pirates? Juice, are you muted? Nope. Technical difficulties.
What a shame.
Okay, well, we're gonna lose. We might lose Juice here for a second due to some technical difficulties for those listening to this on a podcast and live. And if you are joining us live, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us. But guys, I agree with you guys, and I think Juice was going to echo a lot of the same thoughts that we had as well. Just in the sense of it was such a boring game, and there's a lot to be concerned about. I was encouraged by the hard hit rate. I think that was the top thing. And a big reason was because I read Joey's article. And if you didn't read Joey's article about opening day, I highly encourage you to do so, even though that's already a series ago, against the Brewers. It brought up a good point, and especially something we're going to look at going forward, and that's that hard hit rate. A lot of hard hit balls. That one that Horner hit off the pitcher today, off Thompson. I mean, hell, it knocked him out of the game. It hit him so hard. And, it's certainly keeping an eye on there. There he is, Juice Man.
Am I back?
You are back. You are hashtag back.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. But
yeah,
going back to the first game, I was really pleased to see, Smiley kind of pick up the same kind of effort that was given by the starting pitching from the previous series. I thought that was kind of a take home for the first game, and obviously Seiya stays hot. But today was semi-disappointing. It's almost like today, yeah, they lost, but it's the schedule gods like you wish they played another game. You wish this was a 3-game set because you had that sour taste of leaving on a 2-game, split. When really, I think if they play another game, they probably win 2 out of 3 out of this series. And you're going into some momentum against a team that's won 4 or 5, right? The Rockies are 4-1 on the season, if I believe. But yeah, I think too, when we watch Kyle Hendricks, we've kind of said it for a while now, but it now speaks so truly that since he doesn't have the blowaway stuff, a lot of good pitches get hit out. I thought the pitch to Gamble that he hit out wasn't a bad pitch. Low in the zone, went with it, turned on it, was able to get it up and get it out. But, man, Gamble just always seems to kill the Cubs. And it's almost annoying. It's like, man, get this guy out of the Central. It seems like every time we turn around, he's having another good game against our Cubbies. But, yeah, I mean, I don't want to put too much into it. But we did talk about it on the last show. Like, these are the games, just take them both, stack some wins. Because, if you are going to be a team that's in this playoff hunt, you're going to have to do it by beating these teams. And if you leave one out there, it almost hurts. But hopefully what this means is is this is just one of the very few that they lose to the Pirates this year, and they can go and hopefully take, a split with the Rockies would be nice in a 4-game set, or 3 or 4 would also be nice. But just don't get the doors blown off by going into there. They're playing really good baseball. They played one really, really solid team, and then they played the Rangers, I think, in the next series, and ended up taking both of those games. But with that said, try to keep this momentum. Don't let today, like Joe said, in a weird 11:30 start, don't let that get you too far down, because, you got a good ball club that you're going to visit, and you're going to have to be on your A game to beat them.
Yeah, exactly. Good ball club indeed. 4-1 are the Rockies, Juice, and they've won their last 4, and then that's very meaningful. A team again that people were kind of questioning their decisions, and at least out the gate early, they're showing some level of dividends of saying, "Hey, yeah, maybe we did things kind of unconventionally, but we can still be competitive." Obviously, it's early, right? We're hammering that thought into people's heads. It's early. We're 5 games into the season, and I agree with you, Juice. Don't want to take too much into it, but there's certainly things that we can take away from it. And I think that's where I want to steer our conversation now that we've all kind of planted the seeds of what really stood out to us in this 2-game set. I think the one thing that we all agree on, including our guy, Scott from Iowa here, best thing so far, number 1, is by far Mr. Seiya Suzuki. I mean, what a series for him. 2 home runs yesterday, the only Cubs offense that propels them to that win on Tuesday. And then even today, he still follows it up with an RBI single. And Joey, I want to start with you, because a tweet of yours is what really stood out to me today. I mean, the guy just looks like a professional hitter, right? We saw it in the first series. He's taking pitches. He's taking those walks. He's working deep counts. And then when you do give him something to hit, he hits it. And he's doing so at a 400 clip right now through 5 games so far. So what are your thoughts? I just hit me with all the Seiya hype, because it was you and Juice that hyped me up when he signed, and I wasn't buying it initially, but son of a bitch, I'm buying it now.
I mean, this is what we all kind of heard, like the scouting report on him was the guy that's going to take his walks, that has really good plate discipline, the OPS over 400. Like those things are the things that get you excited or the OBP, I should say, over 400. OPS was insane too in Japan, but just all of his stats were pretty incredible over there. But then you see it come over here and it's really translated. I mean, forget getting accustomed to things, forget getting acclimated. Like this guy goes up there and he has a great at bat. Every at bat, it seems like, is a great at bat. I don't know if I've really seen a terrible at bat from him yet, maybe in spring training, but not his first at bat in spring training, I guess we could say. Like, other than that, it's been a great at-bat just about every time he steps up there in the box. And this guy has all the power in the world. We saw it with that first Oppo home run in Pittsburgh. Like Juice said, hey, he's going to start hitting some of these bombs. We're going to start seeing it the opposite way. We did. And then, what's really impressive to me is I don't know. And maybe the one at Wrigley, maybe that one he did get all of it. I mean, it was crushed. I don't know if he's gotten all of one yet. Like actually gotten all of one. And that is what really is impressive and gets me super hyped. And I'm looking at his plate discipline and all that and the clutch hitting aspect of things, of just putting the bat on the ball and there's guys on base. And I'm like, I had to put a ticket in. I had to. It wasn't much. MVP, Seiya Suzuki. If the Cubs are decent, like let's say he puts up a 400 on base. Let's just say he puts up a 400 on base. I don't think it's like going to happen. If he does and he hits 30 plus bombs, we're talking that's Juan Soto type of range of numbers. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying a little sprinkle. That's all I had to do for being a good Cubs fan. I had to do it.
Joey's saying
MVP.
Yeah, I was just saying Joey's not saying it's going to happen, but he's saying it's going to happen.
But give me the sign.
Yeah. Give you a little something. And Juice, I mean, like Joey said, right? That opposite field power was going to come. I mean, again, I kind of agree with Joey here. Has he really gotten all of one yet? There's no way. There's literally no way. And I can't believe it. And Juice, I mean, I want to hear from you and Joe as well, because we actually didn't get to talk to Joe about Seiya. So I'm really excited to hear Joe. And so we will save the best for last here in terms of a very fresh opinion on the brand new edition for the Cubs. But Juice, I mean, come on, just filter into the love fest here. Help me out.
Yeah, it's nice to see, Scott from Iowa put up all those names. If you want to look at all those names, they're all mainstays of this team that you're hoping that you're going to have in the future. That is something that I think that we could really sit here as Cubs fans. And obviously, short-sighted, we're hoping they make the playoffs, right? There's an extra wild card. There's a lot of different ways they can get in a bad division. But earlier on the season, you name those names: Suzuki, Roberts, Happ, Nico. Those are all guys that going on into this season, we kind of had stars next to them or highlights saying we hope that these guys produce. In a bad season, if those guys produced, we would feel a lot better as Cubs fans. I know we would. If you knew that you gave good money to Suzuki, you were getting second half Ian Happ, and Nico Horner with his new body, kind of bulked up, was starting to drive the ball a little bit more, and you were getting great situations for Roberts, at the back end of that bullpen, it was going to be a successful season. That's kind of been the initial, road to success for this team in the first, 5 ball games of the year here. It's interesting to see. I do think eventually he'll hit the wall. He'll get figured out, and then it'll be on him to adjust. That's exactly what happens with every major leaguer ever. They're going to start pitching to him different. And it'll be on him to, take a breaking ball down the line or take his singles, take his walks, which I think as a guy who's 27 years old, we could legitimately say he's a professional hitter, and he already knows that. So he's going to take advantage of as many mistakes as they're going to make to him in the first 10, 15 games, however long this is going to run. And then we'll go from there. Then there'll be a book out on him, and then we can sit here on these podcasts and talk about what his weaknesses are and what he needs to get better at. But in the meantime, as a Cub fan, he is paying off dividends for you and winning you ball games early on, when realistically, if you look at the April schedule, it's not easy. They have a lot of games that they play in April against teams that are projected to be, solid contenders in the NL, and they play the White Sox as well, I think, at the beginning of May. So the beginning is kind of tough. So in the beginning, hover around 500, a little bit over, and maybe you get more games around the Pirates, the Reds later on in the year, and you can really kind of reel everybody back in. And hopefully you look up at the end of the year and you're a playoff spot, but you can't speak, enough about the kid. And I think it's really short-sighted to think that, we're forgetting all of the other things that he's going through while he's here, adjusting to America, speaking through the interpreter, not being able to communicate at a level that, the 4 of us sit on this podcast and do. That's even difficult for him. And even playing the MLB game, it's different. It's a different city. It's cold. It's not, there's a lot that you can say that he's kind of glossed over and done a good job at. And man, I like the bet, Joey. I hope you're right, because if that's the case, the Cubs are going to be in a good place, I think, at the end of the year when you look up.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And I think it does look good. And I think a lot of that does have to deal with how Seiya does, like you said, Juice, and considering all the things he's going through and still having early success. Again, 5 games, but nonetheless still success. Joe, I mean, you've yet to share your thoughts and opinions, and obviously you are a baseball coach, so you can probably give us more in depth in terms of his mechanics and different things like that. Joey, I know you're a baseball player as well, and you do a great job doing that as well. I never played, so that this is the opportunity for you guys.
I don't know about how great I am now, though. So
hey, that's okay. That's okay. We're all maybe great once, right? Yeah. But Joe, I mean, lay it on for us. What are your thoughts on Seiya Suzuki and even what he's doing so far, and just how truly how important he can potentially be for this team?
Mm-hmm. So I think just right off the bat, excitement is through the roof. Like between games of a doubleheader, I go check the phone real quick, and I got the score updates to my phone, and seeing Suzuki homer is like, it just, your eyes get wide, and you're like, gosh, I want to watch that right now. But I got to put my phone away. Got to set a good example. But I'm like, Scott, I want to watch that right now. And I'm thinking about it. I'm telling the players, I'm like, hey, Suzuki just hit a homer. And our head coach is a big Cubs fan. A lot of the players are Cubs fans. And it's just, that's the guy, when you're talking about somebody on the team right now, that's the guy that's got the buzz around him for good reason. But at the same time, there is no, there's been a lot of Japanese players in the big leagues, but there still really is no, example of expectations. Because you look at, Shogo Akiyama, who's, he was not super highly touted, but can't say he was expected to be designated for assignment by the Reds within 2 years. So,
True.
and he's probably a different type of hitter than Suzuki is, but like Shogo Akiyama, he's here and he's probably already on his way out, unfortunately. So there really is, no clear example of like what to expect. So I think that the good start is like shows that, man, was he ready? And like obviously the skill level, that's obvious, but man, was he ready? And they talked about this I don't know if it was before the game today or a little bit during the game today, where it's like, yeah, it would have been easy for him to go maybe to San Diego, closer to Japan. He would have gotten to play with Yu Darvish, another Japanese player. But he was dead set on Chicago. Whether that says more about the Cubs or more of just he fell in love with the city. Either one I'm okay with. Yeah. But man, like he's here and he's ready to play, which is just awesome. And yeah, there's going to be a huge adjustment period. But you think about the homer against Peralta, it was off a breaking ball. But I remember seeing the average velocity from Japan to the MLB is like 3 miles an hour difference.
Mm-hmm.
And Freddie Peralta could throw pretty hard, and to be able to cover that breaking pitch and just crush it is just awesome. So it's just every time he comes up, you're ready to watch. You're not looking at your phone, you're just watching, and it's awesome.
It is awesome. And Joe, honestly, you put it perfectly, right? There is that buzz around him. And again, right, we as a fan base, we appreciate our good friend of the show, director of morale, Mr. Frederick. We appreciate the kind of that Cubs vibe. The guys want to be here. They want to be at Wrigley. And like you add that to the fact that Seiya is such a good player and like he chose Chicago, that's awesome. That just adds to it, right? That adds to how exciting he is. But like you said, on the baseball field, and Scott says it in the comments here too, his best attribute is his plate discipline. He is very disciplined on the plate. They've challenged him outside and off the plate already. They know he's a good hitter, and he's just been taking those pitches. And even when he is striking out, you still see him working these deep counts. And it's just that ability to, wear down a pitcher and get the looks that you want. That's just, to me, is going to be better for him. Of course, he's going to hit a slump at some point, but when you're that advanced as a hitter, especially because he is older, yes, he's young for coming over from Japan in terms of only being 27, but again, not every 27-year-old has that level of plate discipline, right? That's only like the best of the best at that age. So for him to be able to do that so far is truly exciting. But Scott went on and say in his comment about bad pitches, and Juice, you brought up a not so bad pitch, but I think pitching is a good topic at hand here. And kind of a tale of 2 days, right? First time through the rotation, sick. All 4 Cubs pitchers go at least 5 innings on shortened spring training. That's fan-freaking-tastic. Great start for the starting pitching. Smiley ends that with yesterday's victory. But then today, Kyle didn't look as good. Joe, you mentioned he didn't throw the changeup as much, and even the changeup he did throw, he left it a little inside, and Gamble just golfs it out of the ballpark. And it just feels like some of that bad luck for Hendricks, especially early on in the season, where we've seen him struggle, especially early in games, early in the season. So, Joe, I want to go to you first because I don't want to leave you to the end, buddy. But just your thoughts so far on the pitching. I mean, obviously, kind of a tale of 2 days. Smiley didn't do anything over the top, only 1 strikeout. But again, he was super solid. 11 ground ball outs. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that anytime, right? So, what are your thoughts on the two? Because it was a little bit of night and day in games 1 and 2 of this Pittsburgh series. So, let me have it. What do you think?
Right. So leaving Hendricks today aside, that first time through the rotation, none of the pitchers went deep. I don't know if anybody made it into the 6th inning, maybe a little bit, but
Hendricks went 5 1/3. But okay, yeah.
It's exactly kind of like the offense. Like there's not one guy that's going to carry it. You'd like Hendricks to be able to, but from what we've seen recently, it's just he's not going to be a horse that we'd like him to be, but it's going to be a team effort, and that's exactly how it worked. 5 innings from the starter, 4 innings from the bullpen with a lead, hopefully, and it's worked out in those wins. And even today, the bullpen did a really nice job. And Hendricks aside, but if that's the blueprint, that's the blueprint. Just like the Cubs had kind of switched their offensive approach to we need to make some things happen by putting the ball in play. And we've seen it a little bit here and there, only 5 games. So, it's going to take some more time for that really to play out. But I would expect similar things with the rotation. Obviously guys are still building the length and innings up. So that'll come. But as of right now, it's just a team effort all the way around. And I think they did a nice job the first time through the rotation. And even today, Hendricks gave up 6 runs, not pretty, but the bullpen held it.
Mhm.
They did their job, gave you got to give the offense a chance to get back in the game, and they did. So that's what you'd like to see, and they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Juice, I mean, I know you want to echo as well, and you joked about, the Chad Bradford and guys that throw funny. Zach Efros looked great today. We talked about Roberts looking great on Tuesday. Again, just these no-name guys that everybody goes, who? They're coming in, they're getting the job done, and I think that's a true testament to the pitching lab. But I want to hear your overall thoughts, Juice, just so far, really, on the pitching, because again, a little bit of a night and day in terms of starters, but at least the bullpen has continued to be consistent.
Yeah, I think that we're all kind of echoing the same kind of sentiments that we had in the beginning of the season when we talked about this team. There's going to be a lot to figure out in the bullpen. There's a lot of great, interesting arms down there. There's not necessarily an idea of who's got what role either. The one thing about Kyle Hendricks that is kind of alarming is, you start to see his splits in Pittsburgh. Man, that guy just does not pitch well over there in the last couple of years. And he's going to pitch there a lot. The inconsistencies, I think, is something that we've kind of watched. He had, and Boog was talking about during the broadcast today, he had a really terrible start last year, and then a stretch of like 16 games where I think he had like a 2.25 ERA.
Yeah, he said, I think it was 279. Don't ask me why I remember that.
Yeah.
They said it today.
And then at the end of the game or end of the year, he was up near 8. Mm-hmm. So it's almost been a mixed bag with him, and I think a lot of that has to do with what I said earlier. The fact that he doesn't throw hard, and his good pitches are still hittable. Even when he makes his pitch, because he doesn't, if you're looking for it, like Gamble seemed to be kind of cheating on it a little bit on that changeup. It just seems that that's the case. It just ended up, out of the ballpark, and it's unfortunate. But then again, you talked about Smiley, the 11 ground ball outs. That's a great, kind of feather in the cap for him, because I almost would rather have 11 ground ball outs than I'd have 11 strikeouts, because that means he's getting probably deeper in the game. And then there's less guys that you're worried about, coming out of that bullpen where you don't have, a set assignment of roles where you're like, I have to go to this guy in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's almost like now that kind of sets up for who's the hottest at that point. So it's interesting. The Cubs pitching has been, I think, in a lot of the games we've watched so far this year, what's kind of carried them. They've gotten early leads. The offense hasn't, picked up the starting pitcher yet. And I'm waiting for that to happen. Hopefully that happens, when they go and play in Colorado, because they're going to have to hit. I mean, nobody's able to keep, people off the scoreboard when you're playing there. It's just a matter of you're going to have to score, 5, 6, 7, 8 runs. Sometimes you're going to have to score in the double digits to win games. So with that said, take this feather in the cap. Hopefully it's just the one bad blip that Hendricks has to start the season, because it'd be really nice to see him gain some momentum and get to that old form again, where you start to look at these top 3 and 4, if Smiley's getting ground balls, is you're going to have a chance to win every single day. And I personally, today, rough blip, but turn the page, move on.
Yep. And because winning is cool and tough, Juice, and that's what we like to talk about over here at Cubs on Tap. And Joey, again, talk about winning, right? We talk about wins. This bullpen just continues to feel like a win. The starting has done well. Your turn, my friend. What are your thoughts here on this starting pitching in this series, especially? But again, overall as well.
I mean, a lot of the same points has already been made. I love what these guys have said. It's really encouraging. I love the ground ball outs, like Juice just said too about Smiley. This top 4, Hendricks being the inconsistent guy, and I put out a tweet like that too right now, where it's like him not throwing 94, 95 to me, like that would set up the curveball to even Cabrian Hayes that I saw that was like looped out into right field. To me, it's like pitches like that. If you do throw 94, 95, you get away with that pitch because that was a pretty good curveball. And it's like him being able to put the bat on the ball. And I know Cabrian Hayes is a pretty good like contact type of hitter, really. He's not somebody who's just going to strike out a ton. He's a pretty damn good hitter. We just got to see like what kind of power he ends up putting up. But I mean, he is a good hitter. You got to respect that. And it was a good piece of hitting. But if you're throwing 94, 95 and you do that curveball low and away like he threw there, that shouldn't have been a base hit. Like that's a tough pitch to. I feel like teams are kind of catching on here. Like once you know what Hendricks throws and you see him after a while, it's really hard. He has to be very pinpoint accurate with his pitches. And even against Milwaukee, I don't know. I think they were just like thrown off a little bit. Like we haven't seen this guy in a while now because it's a new season. You know, he was missing his spots a little bit, and he got some swings and misses in the zone, which is good. You want to see those swings and misses in the zone. And they mentioned that on the broadcast. But the thing is like, how often can you miss those spots in the zone? Like when you're a guy like Hendricks, I'm not sure if that's sustainable. I feel like he has to be very, very pinpoint accurate and rely on that weak contact and get those ground balls like what Smiley was doing in the first start of the series. So that's where I'm kind of at with Hendricks. I want to see like how he bounces back and responds from this. I'm not going to say like, oh, he's done after this series or after this one start, because that's just ridiculous. I think if he's shown us anything, his ERA in the first, like I put in that article that you mentioned earlier, in March and April is his worst ERA out of any months that he's ever pitched. So, I mean, like his first real gem that we witnessed, to me, it was like, wow, he's starting off on a good note. Like it was kind of shocking to me, not shocking in the sense that he can't do it, but just he doesn't usually start out hot, and he had a pretty rough spring. So I'm like, okay, this is excellent. Looking at the bullpen, I mean, Michael Rucker, you guys talked about it. No hits allowed, no runs, 2 1/3 innings, like just absolutely dominant. And Scott Effross too, 1 1/3 innings so far, 3 strikeouts out of 4 batters faced, no base runners allowed. That's the definition of cool and tough, like you said. I love to see that. Rowan Wick's kind of scaring me a little bit. He's like getting traffic on the bases. He got out of it, didn't allow any runs, but Wick is kind of scaring me. I don't think he's all the way there yet. It seems like Robertson's the closer. I mean, we don't really know right now at this point, but 2 saves and 2 opportunities, I believe. So I think Robertson's pretty much the guy right now. And then, you know, we don't know how they want to do back-to-backs right now. I think they're just building guys up. I don't think they really want to go back-to-back if there's another opportunity in back-to-back days. But it kind of seems like the bullpen, though, like you guys talked about Roberts. I like what the bullpen it's going to come together. Like you can just feel, you get the sense of it's going to come together here.
Yeah. And it felt like it started to kind of come together a little bit in this series too. And, you know, speaking of things that need to come together, we'll hit another transition point here. We talked just briefly. I kind of mentioned my initial thoughts about like the hard hit contact and things like that. Some of that was unlucky. But a guy that's a little concerning right now in this lineup that isn't hitting a lot of hard balls and at least just being unlucky, like a Nico Horner is, like a VR was today, a Suzuki, things like that. And I'll mention VR here in a second again, because I think Patrick Wisdom is not doing so good. And on top of that, I think he's not doing so good to the point where, and this I agreed with our buddy Baseball Boosh over at the Dingers podcast today. He was tweeting about it. I think by May, Wisdom loses the starting spot at third. Yes, he plays strong defensively, but he's already had an error to start the season. He's not hitting anything. I mean, what? It was 0.77 was his average at one point today. It might even be lower now. So, you know, maybe VR is the next guy at third, and maybe that's why they went and got him, because they weren't sure what Wisdom was going to do this year. So, guys, not only do I want to hear your thoughts about Wisdom, but like, and this is also a good other time to just vent any other concerns that you might have so far. And Juice, I want to start with you this time, buddy. What do you think so far with some concerns through these first 5 games?
Yeah, I think my prediction for the year of him not ending up
your
as
biggest
a Cub
disappointment
by the end of the year is
Looking
well
good.
on its way, if that's the case. I do think in some ways he's going to come back to at least a little bit of what we saw last year. The problem is that if you really look at the VR, that's great if he plays third. there's not a lot of options. You know, if you're even looking in the minor leagues to bring somebody up, there's not a lot you could really pick from there either to come bring up and fill in at third. So it's something like they're really hoping for guys like Wisdom and Schwindel to come through, because there's no depth realistically at those positions other than VR. And I mean, Rivas, maybe you're getting more starts at first, but with that said, you know, it's concerning, because I think too, he's getting beat on some mistakes too. There's been a lot of times where a pitcher misses his spot, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Like this is your time to shine, and he's swinging through a lot of pitches I think that should be hammered somewhere, and that's concerning. Again, 5 games into the season, I don't want to, you know, throw my arms up in the air and say, "See, I told you so." But I mean, I
told you.
But it's difficult, right? Because I think in so many ways we watched how many, you know, guys come through like Suzuki, like Nico Horner, you know, like Wilson Contreras, and then you see these guys at the corners who are really struggling right now and leaving guys on base. And that's just, today was prime example. You know, you're waiting for a hitter to pick up your starting pitcher after having a rough day, and you get some traffic, and it's like the minute that any of those two get up there, it's like Jason Hayward and Patrick Wisdom are the ones holding the at bat, which sucks. I mean, it's unfortunate, because I know that those guys too, that's when you start pressing. That's when you start having very bad at bats where you're swinging out of the zone, trying to do too much. And let's just hope that it's just a matter of, you know, early in the season, they can quickly turn it around and get back on track. But I'll tell you what, this Patrick Wisdom thing, like it's concerning, because there's not a lot of depth after. So Cub fans, get ready. You're either going to see a lot of VR for the whole year, or you're going to see, you know, this same guy out there, because there's really not a lot of depth until they get Simmons back, and then maybe you can move people around, but you really don't want to do that to Nico now after, you know, him starting at short and playing an elite shortstop. You know, we've seen him make a lot of great plays. Madrigal, but he's got a weak arm too. I don't know. You know, it's just a kind of matter of, let's hope that he breaks out of it, because there's just not a lot of depth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, I want to get your take on this, and maybe this has something to do with it. Scott is in our comments here, and Scott is a big Wisdom guy too. So I know, again, and I think we all can agree that this is a guy we want to see succeed, right? Because if like guys like Wisdom and Schwindel are having good seasons, the Cubs are probably going to be very good. But he asks how much of Wisdom's struggles have due to the tweaks they are doing with his swing and plate approach. And I think maybe for him, it's more plate approach, because he's always been the kind of that, like, I'm going to go hammer what I know I can hammer, and I might swing through a bunch of stuff. And like,
I think it's making him hesitant, honestly.
Yeah. And it's
like he's behind
and
hesitant.
Dare I say, like, maybe it is worth just telling him, just go for it and go crazy. And Joe, I want to get your take. I mean, coach us up here. Like, what do you think with Wisdom's plate approach? And where are your concerns lying with him at third base?
Well, I think the concern is easily that he was a however old, you know, rookie, and there's not, you know, a track record to depend on, so that you think it's easy to get caught in the mindset that the struggles that we're seeing are kind of what the player he is. And last year was maybe just, you know, he was having a good stretch there, which was awesome. And I think it's entirely possible that we've already seen the best baseball out of Patrick Wisdom. I'm not super familiar with, like, you know, any kind of tweaks that they've been trying to add with Wisdom, but you think if the Cubs kind of switch towards more of a contact base, put the ball in play, you know, approach, it doesn't necessarily have to apply to everybody. You know, you still need those guys to drive in runs, and Wisdom, if he's in the lineup, needs to be that guy. Like, there still needs to be thump in the lineup, because he is not a 7, 8, or 9 hitter. You know, you put him back there and that can really stall a lineup, because you can't turn around a lineup to the leadoff guy if nobody's getting on base. So if he's not hitting, you know, 5, 6, he's just not hitting, you know. So it's either he kind of starts to drive in some runs, or he's gone. Not gone, but he's just going to find himself on the bench. And that's unfortunate, because I think he can be a good player. His defense is great. And especially with what we saw last year, everybody fell in love with him, and for good reason. But I think maybe it's entirely possible that he just kind of needs to go back to his, previous mindset. It's just, I'm going to hit what I can hit and I'm going to fucking hammer it. And if that's what it takes, let's just go do it. And I think if he could just return to what he did last year, I mean, he'll have a spot on this team all season long.
I was going to say, I feel like with the guys' plate approach so far throughout the rest of the lineup, I'm okay with a guy that hits 240 and smokes 28 to 30 bombs in a season.
It still has its place.
Yeah.
It still has its place.
It'll still play. Joey, what do you think? What are your thoughts here with Wisdom?
I completely agree about like the guys that's why you get all those contact backs. You can filter them in and out of like around each other as Joe loses his headset and almost has a meltdown. But no, like that's why you do that. So you can kind of move those guys around there. And like, does that say anything? Before the season, I did have him like in that article I wrote with the season preview. I had him predicted for 7th or 8th in the order, but does that say anything about like how confident they are in him? I know they made some additions here, so it kind of pushes him around the order a little bit, but does that say anything about the team's confidence in him to put him at 8th? Because I could have been wrong, and they could have easily put him at 6th in the order or 5th in the order or something. And to me, it's like, maybe that says something about their confidence in him, the fact that they are putting him down as like an 8-hitter type of dude, because they started him like that. Like that was right off the get-go, right at the start of the season. So it wasn't like it's just after these recent struggles. I mean, but now you're looking at it and he's got 6 left on base in the last 2 games and 5 strikeouts. I mean, that's not going to do, man. Like it's just not. And I know when you're not a contact hitter, we can sit there and look at this like, well, he's striking out with guys on base. That's what we saw from these guys that we let go, like Javi Baez and stuff, striking out with guys on base, runners in scoring position. So, yes, is there a spot like that for guys? There absolutely is, but you need to hit some tanks here. And I know it's early, like it's 5. We're 5 games in, so we can't like overly react to this. But I will say I was very skeptical, just like Juice and Joe and all you guys. Like, is he a real dude or not? We got to find out still, but VR's been smoking some balls. Like he had that one that got tracked down too. That should have been a hit today. That was just great defense in center field by Brian Reynolds. So he might just be the better player right now.
Yeah, and it's certainly gonna be something that we see play out, right? But we talked about it, right? In the preview show it's a lot of guys. They need to find out what they have in them, and so we're gonna see a lot of these guys regardless early in the season. And it's all about just if they can bounce back. But gentlemen, I think it's time to look forward, right? Because we got a big weekend ahead. The Cubs have 4 games coming up over the weekend in Colorado against our boy Chris Bryant and the Rockies, who are in first place in the NL West at 4-1, as Juice mentioned earlier on. Tomorrow's game, 7:40 start. It will be Kyle Freeland on the bump for the Rockies, and it'll be friend of the program, Justin Steele, on the mound for the good old Cubbies in that first game against Colorado. And then in addition, they play again at 7:40 on Friday. And then they ultimately are at, I believe here we go, 7:10 on Saturday. And then it's a good old 2:10 start local time on Sunday for the travel day. So, Joey, we'll start here with you and get your thoughts. Just quick preview on what you're looking forward to in this 4-game set against the Colorado Rockies.
Excitement, runs. I'm looking forward. Chris Bryant, yeah, of course. I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's always, you're always looking forward to seeing Chris Bryant. I mean, I look forward to seeing him on, my MLB app every night. So yes, we're playing Chris Bryant, but I want to win some ball games. Like we're going there to win some freaking ball games. It's Colorado. You got the elevation. You should, in theory, this is the time to get some balls up in the air because it's going to get out if you do. And your batting average is going to do better too. It's just like your batting average does improve in Colorado, not just the home runs. So Patrick Wisdom, put the bat on the ball. Good things are going to happen. Their pitching staff isn't like overly, like it's nothing to get really like super hyped about. I think they've done some pretty decent job so far to the early part of the season, but it's not like a staff that you just go, wow, like you can't beat this pitching, and especially in Colorado because runs will be put up on the board. I know we will give up some runs too, so I'm already fully preparing myself to be like, what the fuck's going on with this pitching staff and people freaking out on Twitter, but don't freak out because it's going to happen. I also am, I'm intrigued to see like how the bullpen. I think if the bullpen, if they mix and match well, like we might be able to do some run prevention that way a little bit easier than, second time, third time through the order. I'm expecting some real runs here from even our starting pitching, which has been excellent so far. But those are just some things I'm looking forward to or looking at, I guess.
Yeah, lots of things to build off of as this thing moves forward. Joe, what are your thoughts looking ahead here to this Colorado 4-game set?
I mean, it's Chris Bryant, obviously. I'm looking forward to watching him. I think that's a weird uniform to see him in. I think the Giants suit him. I for some reason, I really thought he looked okay in the Giants uniform. I thought it suited him. But just besides that, let's see some offense, man. Let's put up 8 runs. Let's put up 10 runs. Why not? Let's see some home runs. I mean, there hasn't been a ton of home runs. I'd like to see Happ get on the board. Hit one over the wall. And maybe more Seiya bombs too. Why not? Just see some offense. We're gonna give up some runs. Let's just score more than the Rockies.
Dude, Seiya might hit one to the freaking mountains, man. Like,
let's just have some fun watching some Cubs baseball on a weekend.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, Joe. It's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, I kind of like the little bit of later games into the weekend like this because I'm more inclined to watch them because I'm usually enjoying a cold one and participating in the hashtag Crack a Movement. Juice, thoughts on the series ahead?
Yeah, I think game 1, I'm very intrigued for. Watching Justin Steele kind of carry that momentum from his first start at Wrigley into a difficult place to pitch. I think this is your time to show everybody that you can pitch anywhere and you're one of the top, young arms in the game too. Make a name for yourself. Go out there, and as hard as it is to pitch, quality starts out there, imagine if we're looking up, to the next podcast that we do and he has thrown one. We're probably feeling pretty confident. I say a Suzuki bombs would be great, but it'd be awesome too to see him, play that outfield, which is very large out there. Really well. I think too that's another thing that I think that's been really underappreciated for him, and I said it on the last show, and I'm going to say it again that like he's learning how to play that position too, and it's going to be a year of I'm hoping that his bat is every bit as good as his glove is too. So let's those are 2 spots. Chris Bryant, obviously, that's all the 2016 feels, but as a Cub fan right now who wants them to take 3 or 4 or sweep it would be even better. I hope that he goes hitless on the series. That's just me. That's just me being a Cub fan. It's me being kind of a homer, but I appreciate everything he's done. But hey, it's time to win some ball games. And like everybody said, and I echo that sentiment, hit the ball around there, but play your game. If your game is to keep people off the scoreboard and to, manufacture some runs, yeah, getting the ball up in the air is great, but if you win 5-3, 5-2, 4-1, they count just as much as 10-12 or, 14-13 or whatever. So win a baseball game. That's all that matters to me. And I think for the first 2 while we watch, having Steele and having Stroh, step out there too, that it'll be 2 games that they have to take in their first 2 to think about splitting, because to expect Smiley to have 11 ground balls again, I'm hoping for it. I love it, but I don't know if you're going to get it with that lineup in that ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, Juice, kind of looking ahead a little bit here. So Thursday's game will feature, as mentioned, friend of the program, Justin Steele and Kyle Freeland. On Friday, it will be Stroh versus Marquez in that one. TBD for the Cubs currently on Saturday. Alec Mills is supposedly eligible to come off the IL, I believe, as of tomorrow. However, they're going to be really cautious with him. I heard them say it on the broadcast. He's not going to start that game on Saturday. So that's still up in the air, but they'll be playing Senzatella. That'll be that Saturday game. And then we'll see Drew Smiley again on Sunday for the travel day game against former Cardinal legend Austin Gomber. in that series finale. And guys, I'm right there with you. I want to see Seiya park one of those pine trees that are out in center field. I think that would just be cool and tough. But I want to see some of these other guys get involved in the offensive action. I want to see a little bit of pop. There's guys in this lineup that have pop. It might not be, the 40 home runs a year pop, but guys that can still give you anywhere confidently between 15 and 25. I want to see Ian Happ put one out. He should have had that home run on opening day. That thing was inches away from being a home run. But maybe we get a Nico bomb again. Like, that would be very cool to see. More Seiya. Would love to see Frank and Wisdom go deep. Maybe if Clint Frazier gets in one of these games, he hits one out. Like, there's so many guys that, again, you want to appreciate the offense for what it is in this one. And who knows, maybe that plate discipline will really carry over for them in this series, because pitcher's spin isn't as effective in Colorado either. So maybe they hang a couple of breaking pitches and you see, some of these guys who have been struggling maybe be able to accumulate some hits. And I am also excited. Juice, I think that is a big start. I want to see Justin and Marcus come right out in those first two games and throw like they did in their first starts, maybe even build on it. Because if that's happening, that's just a good sign of things to come really for the season, I think, for the Cubs, because these are going to be probably two guys that, especially given, Kyle Hendricks' inconsistent nature of late in terms of seasons, just we've seen the ups and downs here and there, maybe the two kind of workhorses of the rotation for a while, if the Cubs are going to be good. But gentlemen, before we get out of here, I do want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap is presented by the On Tap Sports Network. You can catch us and all of your favorite writing and podcasting about your favorite Chicago sports teams over at, once again, www.ontapsportsnet.com and on Tap Sportsnet on social media. You can find us all on Twitter. I am at Loose on Tap. Juice is at Juice on Tap. Joe is at Joe on Tap. And Joey is at Joey Knows Nothing, because the IN stands for win, baby. We got on tap bets as well for you
to
get involved in too. What's up?
Yes, follow on tap bets. But we got to do Fly the W, right?
We do need to do Fly the W. That is a very good point. It's a good point. I'm glad you cut me off. That's fine. We'll get back to the Pat Zajac part.
I didn't know if we were going there or not yet.
No, so. Fair. And maybe next time we'll leave that for the very last thing. Who knows? But quickly, around the horn, give me your Fly the W picks. Juice, you go first.
I'll go Seiya Suzuki this time. If I'm going to get the first pick, I'll take the guy who's hot, not the guy who's hitting the ball hard. I tried to go Nico and get cute with it last time, but I'll take Seiya Suzuki.
Joey, what's up?
I'll go with the guy that got his start in the big leagues in Colorado. I know there's only two lefties that we're probably going to see him face, but he's got two righties that he can face too. He might be sitting with those lefties, but he played here in 2012. He played 2 games with Colorado in the majors. Just a crazy story of him working his way back to the big leagues and all that. Rafael Cortega, let's do it. Where you got your start, I would love to see it. Nothing better than that narrative. Let's go Rafael Cortega.
I love that pick. That is so out of left field that I am so here for it. Joe, who's your pick?
Cubs are facing 2 lefties this weekend, so I'm going to go with Clint Frazier. I'm sure he'll be in the lineup for it's the first and last game of the series. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him see the seats with the ball, maybe a couple gaps. So, yeah, I'll go with Clint Frazier. I think I've liked what I've seen so far, and I think he'll be in the lineup.
I like the Red Rocket pick. I'm always a big fan of that. I'm actually going to ride with the same pick I had in the Pittsburgh series, Ian Happ, because it's not going to matter lefty or righty. Looked good as from the right side of the plate with 2 hits on Tuesday. Unfortunately, today, though, 3 strikeouts from the left side of the plate. Not sure what happened again. Maybe early game, whatever it was weird. But I'm going to ride Ian Happ again. Again, a guy that I think just needs to continue to stay hot and really ride some momentum if the Cubs are going to do anything. But, guys, as we mentioned, this has been Cubs on Tap. 4 games against the Rockies coming up this weekend. And to continue to remind everybody, we are the official podcast of On Tap Sportsnet for the Chicago Cubs. You can follow us on social media all over there. You can follow the pod specific account at Cubbies, that's Cubbies on tap. We are on Twitter and Instagram there. Blackhawks, Bears, Bulls, and yes, we do cover the South Side too, because Cubs fans, let's be honest, we all have friends that like those guys. Bring them all over to us. We got On Tap Bets, On Tap Golf. Joey was a big part of bets and golf, actually talking with our boy Jack Bushman today, looking ahead to the RBC Heritage. So be sure to tune into that as well. Like I said, folks, if you love Chicago sports and you love sports in general, we have it all here for you at OnTap Sportsnet and at www.ontapsportsnet.com. The OnTap Sports Network, go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Also, along those lines, bet some money on the Cubs this weekend. And if you don't have a Bet Rivers account, sign up with them and use our promo code ONTAP. And when you do, they will do a direct or a deposit match of up to $250 for you. So you deposit $250, they give you $250. It's a pretty sick deal. So if you aren't betting with our friends over at Bet Rivers, be sure to do so now and use promo code ONTAP. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Big little 2-game set for odd ways of saying it, but a really big 4-game set coming up this weekend with a very good Rockies team and against our favorite friend, Chris Bryan. So gentlemen, as we always do here, what do you say? We get out of here the only way we know how. Let's go Cubbies.
Let's go
Fuck the
Cubbies.
Cardinals.
Let's go Cubs.